Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of the Motorsport Show. Welcome, Philip.
We made 3.
The best part, we actually have recovered slightly from...
you're almost better.
From a couple of weeks ago. So, hang on. There we go. What an idiot. I've got stuff going on everywhere here. Oh, geez.
By the 4th show, everything will be fine. Don't worry about it.
We're getting there. But welcome, everyone. A great reaction again to episode number 2, our loyal band of viewers watching us at home. We had good reaction, Phil. We haven't done anything on Facebook or social media since because we've still been recovering and we've had a bit of work to do and everything. But
and the diseases were not related. We're just friends. It's a professional relationship. There's nothing going on, really, is there? But we made it through May. We're in May. We're in the middle of May. You know what that means, don't you?
What a great month.
Eurovision.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's also
Katie Miller-Heike, what's her name?
Kate Miller-Heike, up on a stick, like a satay.
Is that her name?
But there's also bad news in May, isn't there? There's no more hot cross buns in the supermarket, so that's something I'm not very happy about. But there is lots of motor racing in May. It's the greatest month of the year if you're a motor racing fan like we are. And there's so much to look forward to, and we'll get to some of that tonight.
Well, the great thing about May is that Christmas puddings are in the stores. We've got a couple of agendas on the show tonight, Phil,
we do.
Of course. Big one the last day or so. Foxtel announced a significant loss of $416 or so million, and with the industry experts suggesting there's going to be some sporting cuts or deals coming back.
And that's very important for supercars, of course, because that's their host broadcaster. It's a big broadcast deal, so we'll get to that a little bit later on the show. But, changing the landscape of the modern media, who knows that better than us? We started off in print media, and some of us are still there.
And some of us aren't.
Yeah. Hey, it's nice that we can laugh about it through the tears.
Oh, my God.
Let's look forward. We'll look forward.
Absolutely. So looking forward, another one on the agenda this week is it's going to be a debut of a new category, the TCR, Philip.
We don't get to introduce a new category very often. It's going to run out this weekend.
Certainly not in the last 6 months at least. There's a new frigging category every frigging week.
But too much motor racing is barely enough, as Roy and HG might say, and it's great to see a new category out there. Look, we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well, but there's going to be a big weekend coming up at Sydney Motorsport Park for the TCR touring car category, and we'll have some news on that a little bit later on.
16-ish cars turning up, which will...
16-ish.
Phil might have something on that.
Ish.
But the big news in motorsport this past week, of course, was the opening round of the Chinese Touring Car Championship in the motor racing.
We've been waiting so long.
Motor racing city, central of the world, Guangdong.
I know, it's a great spot. It is a great spot. Big crowds every year go to Guangdong to see the TCR series go around, the domestic series in China.
And what about this? If you haven't seen it yet, let's go to clip number 1, Danny O. And...
this is how not to do it.
It just doesn't get any better than this. The two brothers in their factory, BAICs, whatever they are. Good to see that they're wearing the familiar red colours. Safety car takes them out. Daddy, can we have a look at that one again? Like, it's just reminiscent of, was it Powell a couple of years ago? When
it happened to Powell a couple of years ago. In World Touring Cars. It also happened in the Korean Formula 1 race. This is what happens when you don't let Michael Massey be the race director.
And they're brothers. That's even the worst part. And
imagine dinner that night.
Yeah, I don't know. But the safety car was a Chinese brand, a copy of something, I would imagine. But, we sort of think that maybe they should talk to Porsche Cars Australia because, of course, no one does a safety car better than Porsche Australia.
And supercars.
And or the Signwriter. So let's have a look at that, Danny.
Safety car.
Safety car.
Safety car. Well, hang on.
It's a ripper, though, isn't it?
It is. And look, working as someone who works a lot of the time as a sub, yes, it's got through a few sets of eyes. Let's look on the positive.
Yeah, go on.
They got car right.
Yeah, they did spell car right. But it got through the Signwriter,
the
Porsche PR bloke,
yeah.
the Supercars PR bloke,
yeah.
the photographer, And it was sent out to the world just a couple of years ago.
Not the same two brothers who were driving those cars in China, by the way.
No, but dead set. Some of those blokes must have been drunk.
Wow.
No doubt about it.
Why would you say that? What would they be drinking?
Well, in a week where the $50 note scandal has happened.
Sorry, a what?
The $50 note scandal where they
have 50s?
Apparently. Where responsible has been misspelt about 4 times on the new note.
It has.
We had to fess up to a...
hang on, what do you mean we had to fess up?
Well...
It's nothing to do with me.
Or me. Oh, no, it was, but... back in the Bathurst 12 hour back in 2008, and Danny's going to bring this up onto the screen.
Yeah.
The Jack Daniels Racing sports wagon there. We got those beautiful Jack Daniels suits that you see Nathan Pretty, Shane Price, and Cameron McConville wearing, and just in the red circle. Can we actually enlarge that, boys? No, we can't enlarge it, but pace yourself. Please drink responsibly. Responsibility. So... fabulous. No one picked it up on the day except for me. And Mr. Flame Crusher had made those in New Zealand. He did a terrific job. He flew from New Zealand to Sydney, got in a rent-a-car, drove to Bathurst, handed over those suits, and the boys put them on, looked very proud, and I looked at them and said, hang on a second. Simon, who approved these back then? And, of course, some silly Billy wasn't responsible.
They would have been lighter, though, wouldn't they? And the McConville was right, wasn't it? You got that right on the suit.
Pretty was spelt right.
And you got the Pretty right.
Pretty was spelt right.
The price was right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're already getting people writing into us on a couple of different channels. What the first comment we got from Scott Hallinan, and that's what we want. We want you at home, sitting there on your phones or whatever.
Yep.
Comment with us and ask some questions, give us some comments, and we'll read them out. Scott Hallinan, let's hope you guys can address the issue of Triple Eight being blamed for the Mustangs being slowed, because that isn't the case, and the Mustangs haven't been slowed. Triple Eight are getting quicker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
okay.
sure about that.
I don't know who's to blame for what. I don't think it's Triple Eight's fault.
No.
Anyway, okay, yeah, we'll address that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on when we get to Perth.
And certainly the Mustangs haven't been slowed.
No, they haven't.
And then Michael Tabe pipes up and says, Winton Raceway, historic racing this weekend. And Philip, you're historic. Are you going up there? Supercars next weekend.
No, I won't be going up there to Winton next weekend, but it is one of the great historic race meetings of the year. Get up there if you can. It's a fantastic venue for historic racing, and there's so many good things going on in historic racing, and you get access to some of the drivers, access to some of the cars.
And the thing about historic racing, you don't know if the people will be back next time.
Gerald, how can you say something like that? Let's assume that everybody has a safe weekend and everybody will return.
It wasn't to do anything about the racing.
No, I know. I know what you're talking about.
Getting a bit old.
I take medication every day to try and keep that thing. Let's talk about some current racing. What have we got?
NASCAR.
Oh, NASCAR.
Well, after a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about how the Chevys got up and actually won a race.
Yep.
And
Toyota had been dominating.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks it hasn't gone well for Chevys again.
No.
And Martin Truex Jr. won not on the weekend before, so another win for Joe Gibbs Racing. And, of course, Australia's own James Small is one of the engineers, doing a terrific job at Joe Gibbs Racing. And this week, the Digital Alley 300 at Kansas. Let's go to a little bit of vision. And it got to a two-lap shootout at the end. And Brad Keselowski, who we remember doing that fabulous reverse pit stop at Talladega.
Went forward this time.
Went forward, and the number 2 Ford Mustang right up the front there led those last 2 laps on a fantastic shootout.
No questions of parity over there in NASCAR, obviously.
Except for if you're the poor Chevy guys. They're not having a great time of it. So they're doing a little bit tough. Now, We're not buffering, are we? Let's bloody hope not. Maybe.
What's buffering?
Uh,
Something to do with the internet.
Yeah. Let's. What are we doing here, boys? We haven't dropped out, have we, Danny?
If you're having difficulties at your end, we apologise.
Hey?
Stay with us, please.
No, you're good here. Just we've dropped out here, so we can't see your comments or anything at the moment. I'm not quite sure why.
Hopefully the system will play catch up.
Yeah.
We're learning as we go along, folks. This is our third episode. By the fourth episode, we'll be 25% better, maybe.
Yes, we're having a little buffering, according to Tony Heasley there, Danny. Not quite sure why. It's everything's going through at our end, and we can see that.
We did a test
Can't
beforehand.
We? Yeah, we.
Anyway,
so sorry, guys.
Let's get moving on. Where shall we go next?
Well, Formula One.
Yes.
Phil.
In Spain.
And the Spanish Grand Prix at Circuit de Catalonia.
Show us the highlights, Danny.
Let's hit the videotape.
There's the start of the race, and the two Mercedes-Benzes make an even start. Hamilton away from second on the grid down the inside, and he will move down the inside of the man who was on pole position by 0.6 of a second. Look at the tyre smoke about to come off. There it is, of Mercedes-Benz. We would have had highlights had there actually have been any in the race. Wasn't it a very entertaining race?
Nice highlight there from Lewis Hamilton as he waved to the crowd.
And look, we're not knocking Formula One here, and God knows I'm not knocking Formula One because I've always been an aficionado of Grand Prix racing. But there's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks about whether this is going to be the last race at Barcelona, the last race of the Circuit de Catalunya. And you know what? Having been there a couple of times and seen some of these events, great testing track, fantastic qualifying track, lousy racetrack. I love Spain, great people, great food. But if Holland is next and Spain pays the price, thanks for coming, Spain, but a terrible, terrible event. It wasn't very entertaining. 2 hours of my life I'm not getting back in the middle of the night. But you've got to say about Mercedes-Benz, Gerald, they're just absolutely on top of the world at the moment. It's like watching the Holden racing team in the old days. It's like watching Penske at the moment. It's like watching Team Vodafone back in the V8 supercar days. They're absolutely on fire and no one can get near them.
It should be, Formula One almost should be put out of its misery. It's bloody... look, Mercedes are doing a terrific job. You can never knock a team for dominating. But, my God, they did a lot of changes to the aero for this year to make all of this stuff work, and it hasn't worked. And
it hasn't.
It's been shit house.
But one of the problems has been people have been saying that Ferrari have been getting their strategies wrong, and that has been part of what we've seen so far in this season. But I crunched some numbers from the race when I had some spare time on Monday and Tuesday night, and I went all the way back to testing pre-season. Fastest lap for Ferrari pre-season testing, and that was in February, was 1 minute 16.2. Fastest lap in qualifying for Ferrari this time around, all these weeks later, was 1 minute 16.2. So they haven't picked up any pace between testing and this part of the season. And I know conditions change, and I know the track gets dirty, and I know the wind changes, and it's different temperatures and so on. Mercedes-Benz picked up 0.8 of a second in the same time period, and that's overtaking at Monaco. It's different. And God knows we saw a great race there last year when Dan Ricciardo won because he had those difficulties and he kept the cars behind him all the way. But if anyone's betting against Mercedes-Benz winning their 6th race of the season and maybe even a 1-2 at Monaco, they've got rocks in their head because Hamilton will be flying around there. And Bottas in qualifying, and let's not forget it's a very short run to the first corner at Monaco, if he can put it on pole again and out-qualify Lewis Hamilton, I don't think anyone's going to beat him to the first corner. And as we've just seen, home turf for the first time, he might be pretty fired up, so he might be the car that chases home the Benzes, but I don't think anyone's going to beat him. And will Max Verstappen stay out of that corner at the pool? He's hit it the last 2 years. Yeah, there'll be a fair bit of pressure on him.
Be good.
3 years ago today since he won his first race, by the way.
Oh, let's celebrate. I'll have a beer. Let's toast to that.
We should be drinking Dutch beer.
Well, talking about, is that Heineken? Is that Dutch?
I'm not a beer drinker. I'm going to go with maybe. No, it's Danish, isn't it?
Didn't you buy that Heineken?
Someone tell us.
It's not like that German beer, Steinlager.
That's the one?
Steinlager. Return of the Dutch Grand Prix was announced yesterday, the day before. A little bit of vision there, Danny, of what they're saying about this. Of course,
paramedics in here, please, or some sort of attention for Gerald. Anyway, the Dutch Grand Prix is going to be on. It's next to the beach. There is going to be a massive crowd because Verstappen is almost the number one sportsman in Holland and they're football mad, so that's really saying something. The question will be, how will this race affect the crowds at other events like Spa? Because the Dutch are great travellers. They go to so many of these events. They dress in their orange and they wave their flags. Will the crowd at the Dutch Grand Prix affect the crowd at the Belgian Grand Prix? And will Belgium be the next domino to fall? Of course, 2 new races confirmed for 2020. The other one is in Vietnam, in Hanoi. Belgian beer.
If someone could let us know, it'd be pretty good. Steve Williams. Hey, Steve. Gerald and Phil. Love the show.
Thanks, Steve.
Phil doesn't have Facebook, so he can't even read your comment. But he's going to fix that next time. Your thoughts on the works that are to be completed at Sandown in August? Some resurfacing to turn 1 to 3, maybe 4. The wall at turn 6 to be moved back 18 metres and the track surface apparently to be smoothed and reprofiled. New sponsor for the 500 as well.
Who's that?
The new sponsor is it's the other. Well, apparently another mob turned out is a rabble. The announcement was day before yesterday.
Penrite.
Fabulous.
The Australian Oil Company.
They are doing a great job.
They are doing a fantastic job.
And we'd love to have them sponsor us if they'd like.
Let's talk about the question at hand. The track improvements. It's going to be great to see some money spent at Sandown. Great to see that turn 6 wall is going to be moved back. We've seen some big hits there over the years, and some of the drivers on the grid at the moment will attest to that. I think it's a bit of a temporary solution because the Victorian government's talking about a brand new suburb with, I think there's going to, did they say 3,000 residences in the grounds at Sandown? And that was mainly being framed in terms of what it's going to do to the horse industry, the horse racing industry, not the horse industry, horse racing industry. But of course, Sandown still hosts a number of motor racing events. Let's hope that can be put off for as long as possible because Sandown's been a fantastic event. I wouldn't like to tell you the first year I went to Sandown to watch cars go around. A fantastic venue, always.
Were cars invented?
No. It was
Peter Woodman has commented.
Hi, Peter.
Don't know these blokes. We don't know you either. That's okay.
Hello anyway.
Join in. Let's have some fun,
Be
Peter.
friendly, Gerald.
I am.
Oh.
I don't know Peter. Says he went to Corowa High.
Did he?
Buffering bad. Thanks, Tony. Anyway.
We can't do anything about that, especially me.
No,
we've
actually got the system, proper live system, which splits the vision up into multiple streams and then assembles it back at a server. So, in fact, it should be working well. So, and we have a delay actually built in it so that it assembles correctly.
It's called data packaging.
It's exactly the same system we used 2 weeks ago, and we had no buffering issues whatsoever.
But we were younger then.
Trish Branagan says, go, bro.
Hi, Trish. It's my sister.
Yeah, the works at Sandown, terrific. Turn, the one over the back, is that the back over? Yeah, turn 6.
Yeah, top of the hill.
Yeah, it's
Will Davison went in there, Simon Wells went in there.
Claimed a few over the years.
Lee Holdsworth.
As Simon McNamara would know, we stood there with John Stevenson one day when Cameron McConville had a steering issue and stuck the Lansdale car in. And Steve at the time says, he just deliberately did that. Why did he do that? I don't think it was right, but...
Hi, Steve-O, if you're watching.
Yeah,
Next time you go over there on your MG, slow down. Yeah. Don't deliberately do anything.
It's one of the classic comments.
People used to sit on top of the hill at Sandown. They bring couches. They bring trailers and have couches, and they'd bring them in on Sunday morning and sit there and watch the... Well, first of all, it was the 250, then the Hang 10 400, and then the 500. Great place to watch cars go fast.
Oh, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Now, let's go to our next sport on the agenda, drag racing. A couple of weeks ago, Philip.
Drag racing, Gerald, you say?
Well, you know I like a bit of drag racing.
Really?
Yeah. And
never picked up on that.
400 Thunder, Nitro Thunder in Sydney 2 weeks ago, Danny. And Wayne Newby took the win in Top Fuel. Now, we don't have the Top Fuel final vision, but that, Phil Reed and Damien Harris, what a fantastic race that was. 8 cars, there were 6 Top Fuel cars in the 3.8 second range.
Wow.
That is world class. It is brilliant racing. The other 2 cars were in the low 4 second range. fantastic racing. Now, with Wayne Newby took the win in Top Fuel, so he has now assumed the points lead over the defending champion, Kelly Betts, with just the one round to go at the Winter Nationals, the Gulf Western Oil Winter Nationals in a few weeks' time. A small pro slammer field turned up this time in Sydney, only 9 cars, and the classes really felt the pain of a number of incidents during the season, where a number of cars have crashed. Andrew Searle, another Mustang up there in Queensland, Sam Fennick back a couple of months ago at Sydney as well. So only 9 cars turned up, but the final got down to the king of Pro Slammer in John Zapier and the defending series champion in Paul Mahayat. Let's have a look at that, Danny. Now, this is a terrific race here, and Zapier over on the right-hand side, Mahayat in the left lane in the Mustang, and these guys have been going hammer and tongs, but Mahayat's Mustang, the Moit's Mustang, up, huge wheel stand, and he had to pedal that car and missed out on taking the win. He still has the lead, but John Zapier closed the gap. A little bit of the laundry past the finish line.
Just coming over to see if he's all right.
Yeah, and a good win for John Zapier. It's countless wins. Now, big news in a couple of the other categories was that Chris Matheson ran low ET on the Top Fuel bike at 6.09 seconds. So the question is the 5-second barrier going to be broken at the Winter Nationals next month? And talking about barriers being broken, about 25 years after the first 7-second Pro Stock motorcycle pass by American George Bryce on Gavin Eales's Serco Suzuki back at Calder Park, 7.89, about 25 years later, Luke Crowley has broken the 6-second barrier in Pro Stock motorcycle with a brilliant run up there in Sydney last week, the 6.904, I think it was. So finally that barrier has broken in Australia.
Good job. Good job by everybody. And great to see championship level drag racing back. There's been some controversies this season. Top Fuel's not running one event in particular. We spoke about that a little earlier, a few weeks ago. But people love to see the Top Fuels, and the quality of the field, as you said, was fantastic.
Well, there was a bit of a blowout after that too, after Easter, because Willowbank Raceway removed the Santo's crane sign, and Santo Raposada, who fronts up with 3 Top Fuel dragsters at each event, wasn't too happy and actually put a thank you to Willowbank on his Facebook page, which drew hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments. Because the Top Fuel cars didn't front. But it was good to see that they've made up. Santo Raposada and Tony Wedlock, the president of Willowbank, were photographed in Sydney last week, and the Louis Raposada Memorial Trophy, which is normally awarded at the Easter event at Willowbank, will now be awarded at to the winner of Top Fuel of the Winter Nationals. And,
it's a nice gesture.
Louis Raposada, Santo's son, who unfortunately passed away back in July 1990, racing Top Fuel dragster up there. I had the great pleasure of calling his 5-second run. He was the 10th driver into the Goodyear 5-second club at Calder Park back in 1990. It was only my second event working in motorsport. And Louis was the quickest of all of the drivers into the 5-second zone, but unfortunately passed away just a couple of months later up at Willowbank. So anyway, final round, 400 Thunder, is the Gulf Western Oil Winter Nationals at Willowbank Raceway next month. So check the Willowbank Raceway website for all of the details of that. 8 cars have entered in Top Fuel.
Great.
It is going to be a cracking race, I would think, and championships decided. So plenty of punching on going on track.
And not off.
Oh,
not off.
Well, you know.
All right, let's go back overseas. What's happening in America at the moment?
Full field for the Winters, as Glenn Smith said. So, yep, I've got that here. Mark Ware, Pro Slammer desperately need to allow turbo and nitrous cars like Pro Mod in the States. Yeah, the team owners in Pro Slammer, most of them are vehemently against that, most of them, and it would take them all to agree for that to happen. But it does. Turbo cars and nitrous cars do race, although the nitrous cars are a bit out of favour at the moment. Although the other week in the US, one of each qualified 1, 2 and 3, so it was pretty cool.
Good.
Righto.
Keep your questions coming.
Keep your questions coming.
And we'll try and get some answers. We'll make some up.
Sorry, and Richard Jansen said Andrew and NHRA partnership. Strange one, not a strange one, but announced a couple of weeks on the weekend. NHRA and Andrew are doing a couple of things together. Yeah. Funnily enough, someone in this room might have met with the NHRA back in November and discussed that with them and told them that they needed to do something in Australia.
Was it me?
And might have backed it up in an email that I could probably see on this computer.
It wasn't me, was it? Because I've been suffering from amnesia, so...
Yeah. Were you in Los Angeles in November?
I can't remember.
No.
Like I said, I've got amnesia. Okay, let's go back to Los Angeles, or in fact some parts east. It's off with 2 events in the month of May, and this is the start of the Indy Grand Prix. Felix Rosenqvist on pole, his first season in IndyCar, his first season with Chip Ganassi. Is this a Zanardi moment? Get used to the name, folks. Felix Rosenqvist. And already you can see some fun funneling down to the first corner, the old Grand Prix track.
How do you spell Rosenqvist?
Usually wrongly. And Rossi, Alexander Rossi, the winner of the 100th Indy 500, had a terrible start in the Napa car. Rosenqvist found himself under attack from his teammates. Rosenqvist found himself
in
flames in the pit lane. That actually happened to him twice.
Twice. So there's the crew member.
Yeah.
And here it goes again.
Yeah. There was someone who got it right, and that's Simon Pagenaud in the Penske car. 3.5 second gap to the race leader. Disappeared. Took the win. Penske continues its domination of the road course events at the Indy Motor Speedway, and there's a very happy Menards crew, and I think Pagenaud is going to have a lot to say about qualifying and possibly the race for the Indy 500. He's in fantastic form at the moment, his first win for a while, but he's a fantastic driver and a Frenchman at Indy.
I think we've got the Pagenaud interview after the race.
What's going on? I thought everybody was saving fuel, which is so fast. Chevy did a fantastic job giving us the horsepower, and Menard, second time in victory lane here at the Grand Prix, third time, so I'm equal with Will. That's awesome. We kept it in the Penske family. I can't believe it. It's awesome. What a race.
Always good to hear Jean Gerard.
He really has embraced that character. He really has taken it to the bank and played with it. And look, he's been an American now, racing for almost a decade, and he's done a fantastic. Under different circumstances, there was a while there was a window of opportunity. He might have ended up being a supercar driver at one point in his career, but now he's doing a fantastic job for Roger Penske and Menards in Indy cars.
What haven't Penske won in the last couple of weeks?
The World Rally Championship. They haven't won that. We're not going to go to that yet, but
they're on fire, aren't they? So
not as on fire as Rosenqvist.
Excuse me.
Wasn't that funny?
No, but they've won supercars. They've won Indy cars. They won. What's that? The American Sports Car Series.
Yeah, where they race the Acuras. Pagenaud won from
NASCAR.
They did.
Yeah.
Will Power was 7th in that race, by the way. But it was a great race for the rookie turning veterans.
Yeah.
And that is a concern in particular. Aussie James Davison is going to be racing again in the Indy 500. He puts together a deal to run the Indy 500 every year. He does a fantastic job. Led the race at one point in
Danny, there we go. Look at that. It's a fantastic helmet. Sitting out the front of the pagoda. Very clearly RAF and Kangaroo for Australia. And also, if we flick to the next image, you get a good look at the Distinguished Flying Cross, which Tony Gaze won when he was a squadron leader flying those Spitfires in World War II, and
on the outer bricks right there in the start-finish line at the Indy 500. Fantastic testing. Testing started in earnest yesterday. Good news for Aussies. It continues today, so it's early days, and of course they'll have qualifying on the weekend. Will Power was the fastest man, the defending 500 champion, 229.745 miles an hour.
We've got a bit of vision from testing. Here we go at IMS. and there is willpower.
Not getting in the car.
No.
There's Pagenaud.
Yep.
Drinking. Does he drink a cappuccino underneath his helmet? $229.703. Ed Carpenter was third fastest. Helio coming out once a year to run the 500. Well, twice he ran the road course race. Was fourth fastest. Colton Herter was fifth. Sebastian Bourdais was sixth. Scott Dixon, clearly a New Zealander. If he goes faster than 13th, he'll become an Australian again. But Scott Dixon, 5 times IndyCar champion, multiple Indy 500 winner, 13th. Slow burn. You just know Dixie's going to be there at the end.
Danny, I still think we're getting some buffering. Now, everything looks good on our end, doesn't it? Yeah, so we're sorry about that. We're not quite sure.
We're getting comments about
what's going on. We haven't for a while, but my feed here seems to be a bit up and down. Michael Curtis has piped up. Bridie, any chance for an enduro drive, maybe with Hazelwood?
There was talk about that last year in the MSR car. Yeah, maybe.
He is driving. He's put his TCR cars with
MSR,
Matt Stone Racing.
Yeah. Don't know. Well,
good to have Garth Tander join in. Hello, Garth. Good to see you.
You driving TCR, Garth?
No.
I doubt it.
No.
He's got a bit on.
David Driscoll says really bad at this end, and he says he got his book, so we gave a book away in the first episode.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
We're sorry. We're not quite sure why the buffering's happening. It's shitting me off.
We need to throw another rat on the treadmill, I think, or a hamster.
Well, mate, that's...
What's happening in the WRC?
I've got a $12,000 box sitting there. It's not working. WRC, Estonian Ott Tanak.
That's not how you say
Philip.
it. Oit.
Estonian. Oit.
There
Tanak
was.
took the win in the inaugural Rally of Chile.
We've got some, Chile on the WRC calendar.
Let's have a look at the highlights, Danny-O, and the Chileans were very happy to have this event, the first time the WRC's been there.
Doesn't look that warm over there in
Chile.
Never mind.
It looks a bit chilly.
Yeah, not all went to plan for some of the drivers. Some wide open roads. Some people compare them to New Zealand. But there was a great performance. Well, as soon as I say that, the car goes over. Chris Meek over here in the Toyota. No windscreen. That's a sort of a Peter Brock moment, isn't it? And driving there with goggles at the ready. The Honda
came through for the win in the Toyota Yaris.
Performance car. When you think performance, you think Yaris. Tanak won from Sebastian Ogier in the Citroën Loeb. Sebastian, the other Sebastian, making it 3 makes in the top 3 places in the Hyundai. Ilfan Evans fourth for Ford ahead of his teammate Surunen and Esa-Pekka Lappi in the Citroën, who did have a crash but recovered and moved his way up to 6th. Ogier leads the World Championship. He's won 5 times, I think. Tanak is second. 10 points between them, 122 to 112. Terry Neuville, who had a bit of a shunt in his Hyundai, 110. Chris Meek is in 4th place, but it's between those 3 drivers. It's between Ogier, Tanak, and Neuville for the World Championship. It looks like.
Do we have a look at Neuville's accident here in the what is it, Hyundai?
That's not good, is it? Yeah, over it goes. 1, 2. That is. We have seen some enormous shunts this year in the World Rally Championship.
It has been incredible. Let's, if we can have a look at that again, Danny. If we can hit that on the replay, mate. Just a huge one. Have a look at this. Loses a little bit, hits a bank, sends him up and over, and frightening accident. Thankfully, got out of the car, both of them, and. Got out of the car and everyone was okay. David Driscoll said could hardly follow the IndyCar bit and the connection stopped for a little bit, Danny. So we're going to have to bash someone tomorrow, and you know I can. So we'll get that fixed. We apologise for that. We're not sure why. It shouldn't be doing it. We've got great internet signal out of here.
We did a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, Mark Ware, let's go back to drag racing. Mark Ware said the Door Slammer owners are going to deny turbo cars as they know they'll be under threat. As a fan, I would love the blown cars to take them on. Well, yeah, they'll deny them because they like it as it is. They don't want to start talking about parity, I suppose. Of course, they'll be a threat. Every car in the field should be a threat.
Yeah. And look, a bit of variety from a layman's point of view when it comes to drag racing. I think you all know I'm a layman. It would be great to see a bit of variety in the field, but also we've got to protect the team owners and their investments. People talked about having turbo cars in supercars. That's why it was rebranded from V8 supercars. And from an investment point of view, it really hasn't borne any fruit. So, and drag racing, if there is a move for that, it has to be semaphored well in advance so the team owners can make their financial years, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Fiona Hush says, "G'day from Kilmore, Vic.
Hi, Kilmore.
Highline Racewear. And hopefully you know how to spell responsibly."
Spell responsibly.
Not responsibility.
Well, this is why you have spell check. You can't. I don't know if you can digitise these things.
I'm not sure if embroidery machines have spell check in them, Philip.
Well, I had a job as a sub-editor in a tattoo parlour for a while.
Scott Hallinan comes in. Supercars need more cars, more biff and bash. It's becoming sterile. Absolutely.
Well, yes and no. Look, you have good races and you have bad races in supercars. The competition is close, but one team doing all the winning.
New track surface. But you were being good.
It was a little bit. It was a bit of a conga line.
Crap. Sterile.
It was a bit of a conga line. I wasn't there, by the way. I watched it on TV.
24.7 million Australians, I didn't.
Watch it on TV?
No.
Okay.
Not one bit of it.
Well, we can talk a little bit about that as well, because that's one of the talking points we have to get to. The Foxtel situation, there will be some variations in what might be available in terms of streaming services and alternatives. Because as I understand it, when's the current contract up? The end of next
2020.
Year? End of 2020.
Which is a 6-year deal. And the big news, as we said at the start of the show, yesterday, News Corp, Foxtel notified the ASX that they would post a $416 million loss for the year. And all of a sudden it means some of the high-dollar sports are probably in the firing line.
Yep.
And the worrying signs are for rugby and Super Rugby, the A-League Soccer, which has got falling ratings, but the A-League Soccer has 4 years remaining, apparently on a very tight contract.
Yeah.
And the big one that we've just mentioned is Supercars, which comes up for renewal sometime next year.
Now, as I understand it, Supercars deal and the A-League deal is approximately the same value so far as Foxtel is concerned, and if what I've read is true, about $40 million each per season. And I know there's some variation in the Supercar deal because some of that's advertising and some of that's payments.
Well, yeah, it was $32.6 million a year in cash. If you go on the $196 million cash for the 6 years.
Yeah.
And they were to get, what was it, about 60 or 70 million in advertising, so about 7.5 million a year, which brings it up to 40 million a year.
And according to the Sydney Morning Herald yesterday, a reputable financial reporter suggested that the total spend of Foxtel on sports rights was about $800 million a year. Most of that goes to the two major football codes, AFL and NRL. So where will that leave Supercars? And the reason we're talking about this now is because
it actually came into effect.
Yeah, it was effectively an extension of what they currently had.
No. The current deal, because prior to that they were on Channel 7.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
And the new deal was that Foxtel would be the host broadcaster and then offloaded the extra bits to Channel 10.
Yeah. Who had a broadcast from Perth live.
Yeah, which wasn't in a part of the normal deal because, of course, they've been running the 6 big events live, and which is Sandown, Bathurst, Townsville, Adelaide, and, of course, the final at Newcastle.
Now, nobody out there needs to know,
think
or
that's
needs
right.
to be told that there's been a bit of disruption in the media landscape.
No. Well,
They've been watching.
They should be.
A couple of things I want to mention.
If not us, they should be on to Russell and the dude.
They probably already have been. A couple of things I wanted to mention as far as the streaming landscape was concerned. There's an organisation called DAZN, DAZN, which is an American web streamer, and they are setting up shop in Australia according to reports over the last week on the internet. And DAZN is apparently looking for content to broadcast, and according to this report, which I've read again from quite a reputable website, is looking for staff in Sydney to start selling ads. So that would suggest that there is going to be a new player in the streaming landscape, at least as far as sport is concerned. You might want to do some research on that, DAZN.com overseas. They tend to show in America things like multiple, what do they call it, the biffo in the octagonal cage? That, not UFC itself, but martial arts fighting and multiple sports. There is also another suggestion that ESPN Plus will be expanding into Australia, the sports streaming app service available from ESPN in the States. Of course, ESPN at the moment has 2 channels on Fox Sports. They have much more than that in the US, up to, I think, 6 now, ESPN in the USA. So
They've got the Ocho.
The Ocho. That's
ESPN 8, the
I
Ocho.
love that.
Where the final of Dodgeball is on.
I love it in Spanish.
Go Balls do.
Excuse me. And there is a suggestion that ESPN Plus will be coming to Australia. That's owned by Disney. And who's to say that sometime in the not-too-distant future there might be a Disney streaming service that will contain television programming, because don't forget, Disney just recently bought out Fox in the US. There might be movies available, and that would be a massive back catalogue from Disney. And if you put sports into that and price it properly, maybe it's just going to be a streaming package. And, of course, let's not forget that at the moment, Fox Sports offers its product through KO.
That's how I watch.
That's how you watch. I'm on Foxtel, you're on KO. So lots of people out there, the pickup rate for KO, I believe, has been quite encouraging. So, look, it's a much different landscape to what we might have expected to see. And there'll be more news than that on the way through, I guess, through the rest of the 2019 season leading into 2020. But we just thought we'd mention at the moment this is important. People might be making long-term commitments to their broadcast deals, as far as consumers are concerned. And, of course, the Foxtel news has been in the press for the last few days. So it's a possibility, not of all change so far as broadcasting is concerned, but there might be some significant news coming up in the next little while.
Could be a job for you, Philip.
In what?
I don't know.
Not broadcasting. Clearly.
Well, if we stop buffering,
If we
you're
stop
right.
buffering, yes. If we get the technical problem. Well, just
Well,
ask,
when
by
you
the
get
way.
to our age, you don't get a lot of buffering.
Speak for yourself. What's happening in TCR, Gerald?
Well, okay, that's the
Aren't
next
you glad
one.
I asked that?
Actually, we're tracking along here today. TCR, so the new series launches this weekend at the Shannon's round. TCR, the new touring
Nationals.
cars, the Nationals, Shannon's Nationals up at Eastern Creek. Is it
No,
Eastern Creek?
no. Sydney Motorsport Park.
Sorry, Sydney Creek, Eastern Creek.
Sydney Creek. Eastern Creek. Eastern
Sydney
Creek
Motorsport Park.
wasn't east, and there wasn't a creek.
Or Western Creek. Yeah. Now, so there was a bit of a test last week. Let's show a bit of vision there going on, please, Danny boy. And thanks to TCR for this vision, a couple of Civics. There's Jason Bright's car, the second Volkswagen coming out there, a few different cars. The Rondo car, Will Brown. I think it was that Molly Taylor going by in a Subaru. So all of the drivers, Philip, as we see the things, good skirts, spoilers.
They're just
Yeah, they're sort of sexy-looking race
Were
cars.
they behind the Chinese safety car, and that's why they weren't keen on going forward?
Well, Jesus. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be out in front of the China.
There'll be 16 cars racing in East... Hang on a second.
Hang on. This says 17.
17. There'll be 17 cars. Do you know who the 17th driver is? It's going to be announced.
Here's an exclusive.
It's going to be
because
announced tomorrow.
They wouldn't tell us.
They wouldn't tell us.
Philip,
Yeah.
17 cars.
Yeah.
Who's the 17?
I don't know.
Dick Johnson.
No, it's not.
Surely.
It's not Dick Johnson.
Number 17.
No, no. It's,
Scott McLaughlin.
No.
Number 17.
No, it's not.
Sam Newman. He was number 17.
No, it's not.
No?
No, I haven't been able to find out who the 17th driver is, but on a completely unrelated note, I'd like to send a cheerio to Aaron Cameron.
Hey, Aaron.
What are you doing for the rest of the season, Aaron? Ring us. Muppet head he does.
And Australian-born.
Yeah.
Alexandra Whiteley.
Yeah.
Now, she's driving the second Jason Bright Task Force Racing car, which is going to be campaigned by McDornan Racing.
Yeah.
She's raced predominantly in New Zealand, so I'm not quite sure whether she considers herself a Kiwi or an Aussie.
Yeah.
She did win a round of the Utes over there.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Yin Yong Sang Songs?
No, I don't know what they have a different Ute series over there to the one that we have.
They race competitively over there in the Utes?
Not if the safety car's out, no. And she was in the initial intake into the W series.
Made the final of 28 top women drivers in the world.
Yep.
And raced off for that. Now, the thing with TCR is, of course, there's supercars teams involved.
There are.
Gary Rogers Motorsport would have been very prominent. Also Kelly Racing. And as we said with Jason Bright, he's done a deal with Matt Stone Racing.
Tony D'Alberto, Andre Heimgartner.
Yep, at the Kellys.
Yeah. So there's some good teams involved. There's some smart people at the head of this. It's been a long time coming. Is TCR going to beat supercars? And I don't know what's being said on the Facebooks about this. Is it going to take over from supercars? No, it's not going to take over from supercars. Supercars has got its own separate gravity.
Scott Hallinan says TCR will roll supercars. Well,
no.
Phil says no, and what Phil says goes. Now it's interesting.
Except when it's buffering.
No, buffering. Now it's interesting the comparison too, where you would say that supercars, different vehicles, but with compare with British Touring Car Championship, TCR in England was its first year last year, failed. To the point where they've had to merge it into another category.
Yeah, look, there's too much like in the British Touring Car Championship and TCRs because you're talking about cars of similar size, similar performance. Supercars doesn't have that problem. TCRs are all front-wheel drive cars, 2-litre turbos. Supercars, 5-litre, normally aspirated. The Festival of Speed, light it up and send it up the hill and see who watches. TCR cars, it's not going to have quite the same impact. But, hey, the racing should be good. There is a variety of different makes of cars. There's a variety of different kinds of drivers, including the 3 women that Gerald just mentioned. Let's imagine that somebody like Nathan Morecambe comes along and starts duking it out with Tony D'Alberto or Heimgartner. Yep. People will now start paying attention to some of the younger drivers if they perform in this series. The cost point is going to be a lot lower than supercars, certainly even Super 2.
I heard one of the leading teams offering a car about $200,000. And that car's been announced, and the driver has a sponsor on board with that. Actually, let's look at a couple of the cars too. Chris Pither's Renault, which is out of Gary Rogers Motorsport, looks terrific. They've gone with the factory colours.
Yep.
It's not factory sponsored.
Ricardo for Bathurst. No.
But it's got a fantastic look to it. It really does look sexy. It's a good looking race car. And young Alex Rouleau, with his Castrol-backed Astra as well. And it looks terrific.
Yep. And a good opportunity for someone like Alex Rouleau, who at one stage, of course, was talking about going to the UK and pursuing a career in the British Touring Car Championship rather than continue in supercars.
Went and did a couple of tests over there.
Yeah, so look, a good opportunity for those drivers. The racing will be close. It'll be different. There will be some stuff-ups. These teams haven't raced these cars before, so there will be some reliability problems. You can be guaranteed. There might be a situation where somebody biffs a car and they might not have all the spare parts they might have otherwise later in the season. But let's everybody give TCR a good look and see how the racing is and judge it on its merits. And just because you watch TCR, don't forget, it doesn't mean you can't watch supercars. It doesn't mean you can't watch F1 or any other form of the sport. More motor racing is good.
Oh, it's not exclusive?
No. Just because you only watch drag racing, Gerald, 24 hours a day.
Just about. David Driscoll, always contributing. As he says, can't wait for TCR and looking forward to the S5000 demo.
Oh, that'll be great.
Tim Macro.
Yes, well, that'll be on the same program next year. The S5000s will be taken to the track later this year, and they'll be on the same billing on the AGR Motor Racing Series in 2020.
Tony Heasley says he's buffered out.
Oh, buffering.
This is shit me off tonight. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm up front, and we'll have to sort this out. Well,
there'll be a clean feed online tomorrow, but that doesn't do me a lot of good tonight, does it? That's one of the reasons we go live on this show.
No, exactly, and that was the main reason for the concept is so that we could be live and you can chat to us. We've got a ripper feed going out, so we're not quite sure what's going on. But it's screwing us over, it's bending us over and giving it to us really good, Philip.
Buffering us.
How about some Speedway news? Solo bike news from Justin O'Connor. Philip, you're the solo bike expert.
Yes. The only thing I've been catching...
Are they going to be at the Marvel Stadium this year? We do know
there's no Speedway GP in Australia this year.
Oh,
though I believe Australia's has Australia made the semis of the pairs. I was trying to keep up with that at Motorcycle News, which is one of my day jobs, recently, and there was talk that Australia was going through to the semi-finals of the World Pairs. Haven't really caught up with the opening rounds of the British season so far. Speedway Grand Prix, sorry, I've been paying attention to other things like MotoGP and World Superbikes. So look, if you've got some news and you want to send it through to us, please, and we'll try and get some vision because Speedway Grand Prix, it's fantastic racing. I really love watching solos belt around. If I was given a choice, solos or sprint cars? Solos, please.
Scott Hallinan chimed in. Where can we watch TCR in New Zealand? I don't know.
There'll be a streaming service. Look, there'll be multiple. If you put in Australian
Motorsport.com. They're streaming it.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them. Motorsport.com.
Yeah.
I think one or two of the other websites might be as well. Look, you have a look through that. Hope the buffering's all right. In Australia, of course, it's going to be shown live, free to air on SBS.
That actually is where they could make up a bit of ground on supercars by having every round live on free to air.
Yeah. And it's going to be, I think my understanding is that it's going to be one race on Saturday and two races on Sunday with a relatively short turnaround between the two races.
You know, most supercars events on the ones that are exclusively on Foxtel around 100,000, 120 or 40,000 viewers, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not great numbers for those rounds that aren't on free to air. And I think even last week, a couple of 100,000 watched on Channel 10. Now, SBS is not going to draw the viewers for TCR, but the fact is it does have, reasonably solid views. And if you compare it to a supercars event that's only on Foxtel and Fox Sports, it could be a bit of a surprise.
Well, let's see how it looks. And, of course, commentary-wise, Greg Rust, Aaron Noonan, Brandon Nungan in the pits with... Emma Francesco, who's been doing a great job with the Australian Superbikes this year. So, look, the talent will be good. The racing, let's see how it goes. Fingers crossed for everybody at TCR. We're almost finished, Gerald, but there was a couple of things I was going to mention about. There's one thing in particular about Formula One.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to make an announcement like that guy in the A-League yesterday. Anyway, go on.
What did the guy say in the A-League?
He's gay.
If I was gay, it would come as a hell of a shock to my wife and children.
But
possibly not you, Gerald.
Tell that to Elton John's wife.
We mentioned Formula One before, and we're talking about the next race at Monaco. Someone's going to say it. It's been a terrible season for Robert Kubica at Williams. It's been a terrible season for Williams. And Robert Kubica is one of the great stories of 2019. The reason I'm talking about this is that as we speak, Nicholas Latifi is testing the car in Spain. He's doing a fantastic job in Formula 2 this year. He will definitely have the backing. And I don't wish Robert Kubica any ill whatsoever, and I hope he sees out the season. But it wouldn't surprise me soon if we see a valedictory race from Kubica. And who's to say that 23-year-old Canadian might end up in the car for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it'll be sad.
It would be sad.
Understandable, but sad. As you say, Kubica has done everything that he's had to do to get back there. But, gee, that Williams, what a a shadow of its former self.
It really,
isn't it?
It really is. And look, you would, under the circumstances, you would normally say keep a Grand Prix winner on board and not an up-and-coming driver with a lot of backing. But if the up-and-coming driver Nicholas Latifi's got a lot of backing, and that would suit the team as well, you can understand why they'd make the change. And who's to say that Kubica couldn't be involved in the development of the car further down the road? But at the moment, it's a great story, and I'd like to see Kubica do well. But at the moment, George Russell is 5-0 ahead of him in qualifying and the races. So look, let's hope things turn around, and maybe he'll have a good Monaco.
Michael Tabe has dialed us up and said TCR cars will be more exciting than the ECB Super Utes, and that's a very good comment to go out on, because we agree.
Keep digging, Gerald.
Absolutely agree.
When are we back?
About the most mismatched named category that's ever been invented, Super Utes.
Keep going.
Well,
is this? I think my microphone may have stopped working.
I did. Geez, anyway. Look, I back the category. It should be far better than what it is. I just hope it improves and actually reaches the level that it should be.
So do I.
The dude, Paul Morris, and I have spoken about this, and he's spoken about on their show as well, and he's not a believer.
Well, yeah,
I think they missed the formula.
I think maybe you give these things 2 seasons and see how they go, and we did that with Formula 4.
Well,
and,
it's still dying another death. They've got another management deal now. I see yesterday. Have they got any more cars? No.
I think so. Well, they've got the cars. The cars are there. I just don't know if they're going to end up on the track with drivers in them.
That's been a disaster. That was another new category.
When are we back, Gerald?
We are back, Philip, on Wednesday, the 29th of May.
We might be buffering until Wednesday, the 29th of May.
We'll fix this, I'm telling you. We will sort it out. It was fine 2 weeks ago. We're using the same system. We've got better power, so we're not quite sure why. But the 29th of May, we'll be red-eyed. We'll have watched Monaco. We'll have watched the Indy 500. And, of course, we will have been to that mecca of Australian motorsport, Winton Motor Raceway.
Don't forget to get out there on the weekend. Vote early and vote often. I've already voted four times in 4 different seats.
Robbie Facino, great show, boys. No buffering here. Thanks, Robbie. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll say that. Sorry for the buffering that we have had, of buffering. We're going to see you in 2 weeks' time. We might try and do a little bit more on Facebook and stuff across the weekend. We do appreciate the loyal viewers that we've got. It's a bit of an effort to get this together. We've got to thank Danny, of course, and Robbie Facino, who pissed off early, Murray Anderson, and Tony DeFelice, who allow us to use their wonderful facility here. And Murray has to stay behind to help us.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.